So hello, folks. I have an apology to make. I just finished the feedback for your brainstorming like a few minutes ago. Some of you got it last night because I finished the other class last night. I realized that your paper's due at noon, so some of this will seem kind of late, but you can revise, and I think you should in a lot of cases. Let me show you my. Here, I'm gonna go through just a few things that I saw that were really common in all things. So literary analysis thesis. The big one I think was the format. What it should be is you should have the title in the sentence. You should have the author's name in the sentence, the full name, since it's the first time you're talking about them. And then you have to have an arguable claim with or without the points. I said I didn't care, and in most cases I didn't. So that's kind of what the sentence ought to look like. Now, arguable thesis. So if you say something like this, and many of you did, I'm sure you got it off that website, in whatever the title of the work is, the author portrays characters through their thoughts, feelings, and actions. Yes, that's true. Rain is also wet. So this is a statement of fact, and every author in the universe portrays their characters through these three things. I know why you did it, because you're so addicted to the 5-paragraph essay, and wow, these three things would make really great body paragraphs. I'm sure that you found writing them that you didn't have a lot to say after, a few sentences into each paragraph, because there's not much there. So that's a problem. Another thing I didn't say before, but probably should say now, the title of all of these goes in quotation marks. And the reason for that is they're all short stories. If they were books, yes, they would be italicized, but these are not books. So anyway, going on here. Declarative statements. An author does X. If you can state this statement as a question, and the question has a yes or no answer, it's not arguable. You can't get much traction from it. It's like either it is or it isn't, and then where do you go from there? So some other issues that I saw here, just grammatically incorrect kinds of things. It's not terribly clear what's being argued. And if the points are present, they have to make sense with the rest of the sentence. It's what's called parallel structure. That's one of the reasons I said that points could be kind of let go from this, because sometimes it is hard to make a complex statement have, good grammatical clarity. So all of these kinds of things. Another thing that's not on my slide, but that I just remembered, if you've got I and I have come to the conclusion, or I will prove that, that's not okay for this kind of essay. All of literary analysis is really MLA, and MLA definitely does not do that. You haven't created some kind of experiment where you're, saying I'm proving this, and you're helping people through a really complex, kind of argument with a lot of statistics and research. So that's why the I is there when it's there, and it definitely doesn't belong in this kind of essay. Just the focus is on the ideas, and the ideas are present now, and you're looking at those. And so take yourself out of it. Take the fact that you read this essay or these stories out of the whole statement. Okay, so those are the different kinds of issues that I saw. So here's what I have to say to you. It is okay to be wrong. So when you have an arguable thesis, reasonable people disagree with reading, especially something complex like literature. And so someone could make a different case. I know that that's really scary for you as a freshman. You're not alone. I see this all the time. It's really easy to say thoughts, feelings, and actions, because that can't be wrong. You know what I mean? But if you're trying to make an interpretation of the literature, and you're trying to make it kind of interesting and unique, then you might say something that someone else can come along and prove you wrong just categorically. So what? You've made a case. It's much better to, try to make a case that's kind of, complex, rather than just sticking to really safe and simple declarative statements like the author does X, or, the author portrays characters in these three ways. So what you can do to make yourself be wrong, but it's okay to be wrong because you might learn something, is build your thesis around open questions. And I think I talked about this in an earlier announcement. Like questions like why you think the author's making certain choices, you can argue that. And different people might think that they do it for different reasons. So what you have to do is, if you're going to have a why kind of thesis, you have to find places in the text that support your reading of why, or that make some kind of reasonable sense. Implications of choices. I think that's particularly true with things like the Telltale Heart. The poet is making specific choices and they have implications. It's even more true, though, of things like the Yellow Wallpaper or Harrison Bergeron, where the choices that are being made here, if you think about them logically, they create a certain kind of world. Maybe that's a good way to think about it. And so you can talk about that and show ways that that's true. The effect that the choices have on a reader, that's kind of more, I think, common in especially kind of lower level literary analysis. But sometimes the effects are really interesting. Especially if you have some kind of a visceral effect, something that you feel in your body or kind of in your soul. How the author creates those, that can be interesting. A big one here, and this is true especially again of the Yellow Wallpaper, I think also of Harrison Bergeron, and also of Boys and Girls, is the choices that the writer is making as they're telling the story. The details that they're giving us reflect something about their theme or the society at large, or just something important about the world. So if you didn't do this, then now you have some revision ahead of you, and it's going to be fun. And hopefully you've got some time before the research paper is due. So I would, take a weekend, maybe read this again and see what kind of an argument you can come up with. I'll kind of compare the two together. You'll certainly tell me here, let me go ahead and go to the next slide here. Revisions. So they're possible, of course. You do get only one shot at them, so keep that in mind, but you can have a conference with me if you want to beforehand. And you do need to follow the instructions that are in the course for how to do a revision. And, if you do a revision and you kind of explain how you went from, declarative statements of fact to something that's interesting, if it's not completely successful, so what? This isn't going to be published in some literary analysis magazine or journal. It's something that's an exercise for you, and you'll get a lot out of it by going through the process. So, I'll keep that in mind, and you will get some extra points on your final score in the course and your points for the revision doing it. So I encourage you to do it. Let me get out of this, and I want to go over to, actually I should get this up first, shouldn't I? I want to go over to your course and just show you where to find the revision stuff. Sorry this wasn't up when I started this video. So share application screen. Here we go. So here I am in one of your courses. So you're going to the top of the course. This is where all the interesting stuff in the course is, because it's my stuff. Alternate readings and resources. Revision and editing is where you're going. And so the assignment instructions are here. You have to do all of these things. You have to make a statement of what you liked, what you want to keep, where you think it fell short, things you want to change, evidence of 2 different strategies from the revision list, and you got to use the track changes and comments features in Google Docs or Word. If you upload this and it doesn't show those things, then just go back and take screenshots. Or better yet, just take screenshots of your edited document with the comments there and add that to, like put your document in first and then put in those screenshots, or put the screenshots in first and then your document. I'd like a clean copy of the document, so if you've got a lot of stuff highlighted, take some of that out. Maybe after you, as long as I can see it on the comments on the screenshots, then you're fine. And then a revision reflection, 250 words where you talk about your experience with the revision, what tools you used, how they helped you receive the draft. Maybe also in addition to kind of these questions, ways that you kind of reapproached literary analysis, like what you did at first, what you see is kind of maybe wrong with that, and what you tried to do instead. So kind of describe that, and then submit it all as a single document except for the screenshots, which can be separate documents. So that's what you need to have, and you just put it back in the same slot that the original was in. So anyway, I hope all this is helpful. I'll look forward to reading these essays in a couple of hours here now. And then we can go from there. But it's not the end of the world if you don't get a 100 A++ on it. Just know, probably when you look at the brainstorming feedback, you'll see why it's maybe not an A++ yet, and that's okay. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions, and thanks.